Taking sharp pictures is a bit of a holy grail for photographers. There are exceptions, for instance where we want to represent movement or to emphasize calmness, but generally most pictures need to be sharp. This is Graham Wilson, and this is a theory session for the bronze level photography skills course. Capturing a sharp image is an important first step in the process of making a good photo. Generally in photography, we want our pictures to be in focus, with clear lines and no unintentional blurring. It is possible to fine-tune a picture in post-processing later, but we need to have something pretty sharp to begin with. Without intending to, that's introduced a techie term. Let's quickly explain what is meant by post-processing. Post-processing is where you do anything to the picture before displaying it. For example, cropping it in the smartphone, applying an effect, or sharpening it, whether in camera or using software like Photoshop, Lightroom, or Snapseed. Each of these is a form of post-processing. The alternative to post-processing is known as out of camera, or OOC, which means the picture as you took it when it leaves your camera. For example, if you take a memory card to the photo desk in a supermarket and get them to print straight from the card, that will be pretty much straight out of camera. It used to be that post-processing was sneered at, and Photoshop got a bad name for adulterating images. But today it's part of the process of taking a photograph. Just as a photographer in the past, in a darkroom, would dodge and burn parts of a print to improve it, so today we spend time post-processing. We shan't be covering it much on this course, but do think of looking into it soon. You can transform your images in this way. So what can we do to get sharper pictures quickly? Essentially, we lose sharpness for three main reasons. The thing we are photographing, known as the subject, has moved, the camera itself has moved, or we didn't focus the camera properly in the first place. We're going to take a look at how to focus properly later, but for now I want to look at the first two. This probably seems a bit defeatist, because actually there are ways of photographing even fast-moving subjects. A technique called panning, positioning ourselves better, using faster shutter speeds and so on, can all help us capture a fast-moving subject. So all is not lost, but for the time being, taking pictures of things that are not moving is probably the easiest way to get a sharp image. The second simple improvement is to make sure that we are holding our camera well. There are two sides to this, holding it still while you get the image composed, and in particular holding it steady when you press the shutter release or button. In the left picture, we can see the weight of the camera is being supported from below by the photographer's left hand. That's all the left hand has to do. Notice too that the photographer has her elbows tucked in. She's supporting the camera by bracing her arms against the sides of her body. The right hand then fiddles with all the knobs. Because she's using the viewfinder, the camera is also braced against her eyebrow or forehead. The screens on the back of the camera are great for checking pictures, but they really aren't good for taking photos in the first place. If she was standing by a wall or a tree, she might also be braced against those too, or use a tripod, though with modern cameras you should be able to hand hold for most purposes. The same principle is true for people using smartphones. They're often quite fiddly, and so being braced, in this case with her elbows on a table, makes a huge difference. Experiment to find the most comfortable way of holding the phone with your fingers. For some of us it's easier in portrait format, and in others it's landscape. To take a photo you usually have to touch a disc on the screen, and it's important to be able to do so without moving the phone around. Go on, give it a go right now. Support the lens, tuck in your elbows. If it feels uncomfortable, persist a little. Eventually your muscle memory will adapt. So that's the first three things to do to improve your pictures. Take pictures of things that aren't moving, Hold the camera so that the lens is supported and the right hand is in control. And finally, just a reminder that sometimes we want blur. The picture on the left has been deliberately